you must have had some suspicion that what your results would be. When did these suspicions that other that other animals than humans
Right.
could recognize themselves in the mirror, could be self-conscious?
Well, as a graduate, when I was a graduate student, I took a graduate course, and one of the things we were supposed to do in this graduate course was to come up with an experiment. Not an experiment you had to implement, but an idea that could be tested using experimental methodology. And you could then develop the methodology.
Mm.
And I found myself one morning thinking about what kind of experiment I wanted to propose while I was shaving in front of the mirror. And it occurred to me as I watched myself shave in front of the mirror, wouldn't it be interesting to see if other animals could recognize themselves in mirrors? And it occurred to me that the obvious way, and it seemed to me obvious and self-evident, but it never does to other people, that the way to assess that would be to superimpose a mark on the animal's face, like a chimpanzee, that could only be seen in a mirror,
right,
to see if it would then reach up and touch that mark on its face. So in effect, I used my experience with mirrors to make inferences about how a chimpanzee that could recognize itself in a mirror would respond when he saw himself with a strange red mark on his face.
But why a chimpanzee? Why not some other primate?
Well, what I after I proposed this experiment, when I was a graduate student, they didn't have any chimpanzees available. But when I took my first academic job several years later at Tulane University down in New Orleans, Louisiana, they were affiliated with one of the 7 national primate centers. They administered one of the 7 national primate centers, and once I got my appointment there, I contacted the people at the primate center to see if they'd be willing to let me come over and do some research with primates. And I set about trying to assess whether chimpanzees could recognize themselves in mirrors using this mark test procedure. And I did the same thing with a number of different species of monkeys, macaques, rhesus monkeys and pig-tailed macaques and so on and so forth. And the chimpanzees passed the test, but the monkeys didn't. And I was more struck by the fact that the monkeys couldn't recognize themselves in mirrors than I was by the fact that chimpanzees could recognize themselves in mirrors.
So am I getting this right? You actually didn't have any specific intuitions. It's not that you hadn't been to the zoo and observed the chimpanzees and thinking, oh, these would probably, it was just a luck, I guess.
Well, I mean, they had chimpanzees at the primate center.
Right.
And chimpanzees are certainly much more human-like than pigtail macaques or rhesus monkeys. And so my interest was drawn to chimpanzees, I guess, because they're much more similar.
Right.
But to assess the breadth of this capacity, I ran the same experiment with 3 species of monkeys, and they failed to show any evidence of being able to recognize themselves in mirrors. And it wasn't for months afterwards that I began to think about the significance of being able to recognize yourself in a mirror and what that meant in terms of how you thought about yourself and how you interacted with other people and so on and so forth.
And that's, yeah.
So
and
it wasn't a sudden, realization, that's for sure.
Thanks for watching. If you want to see the whole interview, just follow the link below or the one appearing on the screen now.